Bernard and Hiller Beecher's photographs of the pit heads really drew my attention for the sense of repetition. Repetition not just as the repeated image and form such as they were utilising, but also repetition within the process of production. And I recently, well, about 5 years ago, I moved from London, central London, to a little place called Marsden, which is up on the Pennines in West Yorkshire. And it has great resonance with the Beecher's work, because within the centre of the village and on the outskirts, there are these old mills, these monoliths to manufacture, to Fordism, to the Industrial Revolution. So this idea of this industrial past that the Beechers so cleverly reproduced in their work over many, many years, a lifetime of work, was also evident here somehow. And I became very interested in this idea between the repeated image and the singularity of those objects that they were so lovingly reproducing in this very, very strict way. So walking through the landscape such as this is something that I do daily with my dog. And it's so different to London life. There are cultural things lost, cultural things gained, taking that leap. But as a person individually, I was very much operating out of my known context. And I really thought about how I might talk about this for the show and in relationship to the Beecher's images of those singular objects that were so much part of the landscape in the 19th century. And I've done this through the metaphor of a stone. I just felt this great affinity of these stones, and looking at the kind of way that they so beautifully fitted within their landscape made it quite a compelling object, an object that might be able to teach me something about how to live in somewhere such as Marsden. And I collected 100 of them. I'm very interested in process and system, and the process and system of collecting these objects, numbering them one by one until I reached 100. I was collecting these stones and in some way changing them, severing them from the context in which they existed, very much as I was feeling severed from the context in which I'd lived for 20 years. So I took them back to the studio, maintained that number, the number system in which they were gathered from the bottom of the river. So they became, rather than just objects in the bottom of the river, they had a numerical hierarchy. Alongside that, I started to photograph them in natural light, and I used a tape measure. Measuring the stones in this way really drew for me parallels between Staten Island and the way people who were migrating into America were taken, they were photographed, they were numbered. This was something that I seemed to be doing to these stones, and I really formed the first of 3 archives with these stones. The next archive I took a little bit further, and I started to link it with memories of living in London. So when I left London, nail bars were everywhere. So I thought about this as perhaps a process of change, a process of changing these very natural objects taken from their environment and masking them with nail varnish. So now they have a new hierarchy, they have a new community in which to exist. And I took the stones, the original stones, which of course now are this gaudy colour, and I put them back, I sort of returned them to the ground in a Perspex box. So they adhered to this idea of art. So in this journey, I felt that the stones were really sort of taking into city life, they were taking into the art world. And in a similar way, I was travelling the other way, through into Marsden, into this idea of nature